did a video about this aquarium right here, and I got zero interest, and that's fine. I don't need anybody to care, but this is my hobby, and I love it. So I'm going to make videos about it, because again, it's my hobby, and I love it. And so we are sitting in my fish room right now. I have converted half of my garage into a fish room. Well, maybe a little less than half. My fish room is about, I think it's about 12 by 20 or so. I had the walls insulated and drywalled. I've got LED can lights up in the ceiling. I've got air conditioner in here. So I've spent a little bit of money to get this, and I've got a lot of electrical juice coming in here. There is something very fishy about this pants. So yesterday, when I did my video about the breeding in this aquarium, some people had some questions on what bristlenose are, and so I thought I'd try to get a little better view, maybe, of what they are. There is back there the albino female, who's the mother of all the little babies that you see in there. I apologize for the moam, but I can't really clean this aquarium with all the babies in here. The father, you could see his tail back behind that piece of wood. He's a big boy. And then currently I have in here, you can't really see it because it's back in there, there is a long-finned albino male who's, I believe, sitting on a clutch of eggs that was laid by that red bristlenose back there, who's on the back side of that valve plant. And so he's sitting on a clutch of eggs. And the previous male laid eggs in here. Oh, what are you doing in there? The other major resident of this aquarium, besides the bristlenose, is a South American lungfish who just disappeared into that. Well, we'll see. He comes out quite a bit. The cool thing about South American lungfish is they have to breathe air. They are an obligate air breather. They don't have lungs. But as juveniles, they have external lungs, I believe, but they lose their lungs as adults. And so they actually physically have to come up and breathe air. A little bit more about this aquarium as I sit down, because I'm fat and old and lazy. This is a fairly new aquarium. I set this one up in the middle of summer. It's a 29-gallon. You can see that from this part down, you can see the tail of the long-finned albino right there. But this part down is pond muck. I actually waded out into my pond with a shovel and a bucket, and I dug up a bunch of muck, hoping that whatever critters that were in it would help kind of get the aquarium going. And then I capped it off with a couple inches of pool filter sand. There's no heater in here, but I do keep this room at around 78 to 80 degrees, depending on how warm it is outside. Yes, it is insulated, but it's not like the world's best insulation by any stretch of the imagination. And I've got the two sponge filters going. I'm kind of surprised that I've switched a lot of my aquariums to the aquarium co-op light, and they do really well for growing plants. I dose this aquarium occasionally with Easy Green plant fertilizer, and that's really it. I don't use any CO2 in this aquarium, and it works really well. Oh, here he comes. Here's my boy. There's my boy. He's freaking cool. He's got the South American lungfish, unlike the African lungfish, has really tiny little limbs. The African lungfish has much longer, skinny limbs. They look like little whips. And then the Australian lungfish is a protected species. You can't keep it, or at least not without a license. See his tiny little limbs? Look at him go! Look at him go! The Australian lungfish has like feathery, they look kind of like wings. That's a big boy. He's like, I'm kind of needing to breathe. I'm going to have to go up to the top for some air. Bloop. Get a nice big mouthful of air. A lot of times he'll just be chilling inside the plants up there in the corner. Nice and high up. And again, I apologize about the mold, but there's all these little babies in here, and they are in and out of that mold. So then, let's see. The next aquarium is this aquarium up here. Crawfish? No, I have not had crawfish. Well, not in a long time. In fact, at the beginning of the summer, I had some crawfish in with the native fish that I had, and they were promptly eaten. So I had them for a very short period of time. So this aquarium has it's 20-gallon long. It's got a cheapy Hydralite and then a cheapy Home Depot light, because the cheap Hydralites are very cheap and they don't grow anything worth anything. This has a pea gravel substrate. It's got an Aquaclear 70 back filter on it and a undergravel filter with a single outlet tube. The jungle, no, it's not jungle valve, that's an Italian valve that you see planted in there. I just planted that today. I ripped it out of another aquarium. And I'm going to see if I can't grow it in pea gravel. Let's see if I can figure out when the, well, thank you for calling, Semper Fi Patriot. The paint drying video will probably be next week. There is a flying fox in there. This big boy, I've got two of these guys. These are Siamese algae eaters. That guy kind of under the rock, that's an L124 pleco. The guy looking at us from behind the rock, that is a Senegal, the correct name is Bashir, but I always call them bikers. The guy in the piece of PVC, and this guy, these are striped Raphaels. There's another L124 pleco on a piece of wood. And then back towards the back, usually, yeah, you can see it kind of down in there. Down there, there are two, I believe, striped Raphaels. And that's what's running that tank. That hornwort I've had in there forever. The hornwort does really well in here, in this particular aquarium. But this is the only plant I've ever had in here. And if you have any questions, you can just let me know or ask them or whatever. This aquarium has two of the cheapy Hydralites. And, oof, it's bad. This aquarium doesn't go crap. I just added those Italian valve in the back. Up in the front, you see some dwarf sag. It started off planted back in the same corner that the Italian valve is now. Yes, I did put pants on for the reflection. You don't get to see my dick. Not without buying me dinner first. But it never grows. Plants don't grow in here. So I've added some jungle valve. We'll see if the inhabitants will let it stay at least close to the bottom. There's plenty of food in here. You can see like a Queen Anne's Sisters pleco that's surrounded by a bunch of snails back there. A ton of food goes in here for the three fairly large, at least for the aquarium, bikers. But the plants don't grow. There's also inside the log, there is another pleco. It's a really pretty pleco. I don't remember what kind it is, but I never see it because it stays in the log. So this one has a sponge filter and an undergravel filter plate with one uplift tube. And I think it's the clay, the kitty litter. It just does not grow plants. Won't grow a plant to save its life. This down here, I apologize for it being so murky. I just threw in that sponge filter. Until today, it didn't have any filtration in it. This substrate is a mix of Fluval Stratum and Carib Sea Eco Complete. And this has grown a lot of plants. And I pulled out just a massive bunch of plants today out of this bad boy. It does have CO2 injected in it. It's got a couple of orange mollies. It's got 4. Yes, I saw you ask me about that, Ed. It's not really a topic for this video. I have looked into it. The case that the judge cited was where the person was trespassed from inside a public building, not a public sidewalk. And there is a difference between a public sidewalk and a public building. And you should be able to tell that because the case that the judge cited Adderley versus Florida. If you remember that case, it's where a group of protesters went onto the curtilage of a jail. They weren't on a public sidewalk. And the Supreme Court holding in that case was that the state, no less than the owner of private property, can limit the use of the property to its lawful intended purpose, which that language doesn't make you think that you can trespass someone from a public sidewalk. And so the case that the judge cited relied on Adderley. So, then you'd have to wonder how it would deal with like U.S. versus Grace or Coquinda. And, Grace was the one where the Congress passed a law about protesting on Supreme Court property. And the Supreme Court found that law to be unconstitutional because it would affect the sidewalks that look like traditional public forums. They look like your normal public sidewalk, except technically they were on Supreme Court property. And so because of that, then you have to do a whole another level of, it's a different analysis. It goes from being a rational basis review. It goes from being a non-public forum to being a public forum, which is going to be, you can't do it. It's strict scrutiny unless it's a reasonable time, place, or manner restriction. Now, with allowing cops, and if you look at the Arizona trespass statute as well, I think section B or C, I think it was section B or C, says something along the lines of the police officer basically can act if he's been authorized by the owner of the property. And I don't have the statute in front of me, obviously, so it's like Arizona Revised Statute 13-1502B. I'm going to go with 1502B. It might be different, but that's what I'm going to go with. But it says that the officer can act, with the authority, like if he's been authorized by the owner of the property. Well, in this case, the police officers weren't acting at the request of the owner of the property. They were acting basically as if they were the owners of the property, which is problematic. And then the final thing, the reason why they were trespassed from that property, from the public sidewalk, was because they were engaged in speech. Now, I don't like what they were saying. I'm not endorsing what they were saying, but it is speech. And any restriction on speech in a traditional public forum has to be a time, place, or manner restriction, or else it has to survive strict scrutiny. And in this particular instance, you are literally leaving it up to officer discretion to say whether or not they want to or can trespass somebody. Whenever the officer wants to, according to the interpretation that the judge gave, that officer can trespass anybody at any time for any reason from the public sidewalk, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Now, if you look at the analysis that the judge gave, that would have been fine for an interference kind of charge, disorderly conduct charge, which I think they were already hit with, but interfering, obstructing, resisting, that kind of statute would have been fine for what they were doing. The officers were trying to conduct an investigation, and these guys were interfering with their ability to conduct the investigation. That's the analysis she gave, but she framed it in terms of a trespassing statute. She said that they were committing a continuous trespass by staying on the sidewalk, and I'm not buying it. If she had limited her holding to they were being trespassed off of the private sidewalk, the internal sidewalk on that apartment complex, or the parking lot that was attached to and for the purpose of and owned by the apartment complex, I wouldn't have had an issue with it. But yeah, I do think they should appeal. I do think there's grounds for appeal there. Because I don't think that the trespass statute should apply to that. Now, can you be trespassed from a sidewalk? Yeah, you can. Like, say for example, if the street's been closed for a street fair and you have to buy a ticket to get in. Well, if you sneak in, then they can trespass you, right? But they don't trespass you from that sidewalk permanently, obviously. And even in this case, it doesn't sound like the auditors were being trespassed permanently. It sounds like they were being trespassed like while the officer's investigation was underway. So it just doesn't make any sense. It's just not a very good analysis that the court did, and the case law I don't think applied. So anyway, back to this aquarium that we were talking about. It is cloudy because I did rip out a bunch of plants. It has a eco-complete and fluval stratum substrate. It's got 2 of the gold mollies for the long-finned albino cories. Back down there, behind the rabbit snail, there is a blue phantom pleco, and there's a couple of Siamese algae eaters in there as well. And there's an assassin snail in there too, which is really cool, because I didn't buy him. He must have come in on a plant or something, but yeah, there's an assassin snail in there. So, yay, cool. So the reason why this is so cloudy is because I ripped plants out, and some of the plants obviously I put in there, some of the plants I put in there, and some of the plants I put in here. Until yesterday, this was a bare bottom tank. Yesterday I pulled all the fish out of this aquarium, and I added the substrate. The substrate is 20 pounds of ADA. The ADA, I don't know if you can see it, they're the big round balls. Just under 20 pounds. I think it's like an 18 or 19 pound bag of the fluval stratum, and then a 20 pound bag of the eco complete. So this doesn't have any fish in it yet. I think I'm going to put my Turkana jewels in here. Maybe a couple other fish, but we'll see. All the plants that are in here were in there, and obviously, like that giant Amazon sword was just being smothered to death. That little Amazon sword that looks like it's dying on the far right was being smothered to death. So hopefully these plants will do much better here with lots of fertilizer and room to grow. This has an AquaClear 110 filtering it, and that's an F-zone something or the other stainless steel canister filter. So there's that. Next aquarium is a 55-gallon tank. It has 2 sponge filters and an underground filter plate with 2 upload tubes running. We've got 3 of these Royal Flex in here, which are totally cool, totally rad. My beautiful electric blue Acaras, which I'm very, very stoked about. A giant super fat Siamese algae eater. And back in the corner, there is a hybrid Synodontis, and then these tetras are bleeding heart tetras. There's the bleeding heart tetra right there that has that gook on them. These always have the gook on them. I don't know why or how to get rid of the gook. I've used Icex, Melifix, Pimafix, Prozipro, copper sulfate, erythromycin, some Fritz fungal cure thing. I don't know. I'm going to show your hydroponics setup. I don't have a hydroponics setup, by the way. I thought about doing hydroponics, but then I changed my mind. So again, these are Italian valve. I'm going to see how they do in this just regular old pea gravel. I will start to dose this with some easy green just to see how we get. And this has a aquarium co-op light on it. This is a 100-gallon tub, I think, about 100 gallons. Got an aquarium co-op light on it. Can't see anything in here. I don't recommend keeping tubs generally. In here, there's a bunch of bikers that you'll never see. There's a red hat geophagus that you'll never see. There's a banjo cat that you'll never see. And Eventually, I'm going to phase this out when those spikers are big enough to move along. These are Turkana jewel cichlids. This is a quarantine tank, 20-gallon with a shit tiger light on it. Oh yeah, the tub has 4 sponge filters underneath. This has a undergravel filter plate and a Aquaclear 110. And eventually, these Turkana jewel cichlids are going to go into that 40-gallon that I just set up with plants. They are currently being dosed with Pro, copper sulfate, and ICX, because they flash from time to time, and I don't know exactly why. I also added 1 dose of Melifix and Pimifix, just in case, but I haven't seen any outbreaks of any fungus or bacterial or anything like that, so I don't think there's any issues along those lines. But they do keep, well, they will occasionally flash, and I don't like that. I'm a big believer in, yeah, it is all freshwater. I am only a freshwater guy. I don't like salt water. Well, I don't keep salt water. It doesn't interest me. So, so these guys are going to stay quarantined and stay treated until they stop flashing. This is another 40-gallon tank with another cheap Hydra light on it. This is also kind of a quarantine tank until I figure out what to do with these guys, or until they get bigger. I've got some baby bikers in here, fish ears. I've got a small orange pike. No real sharks. I've got a, well, in here you see that red tail kind of poking out there. That's a red-tailed black shark, which is technically a barb, not a shark, but they call it a shark, so great. There's also a couple Synodon's catfish in here, a Flaventus and a featherfin squeaker. Little bikers. I've got 2 sponge filters, an Aquaclear 110, and 2 bubble discs in here. Another 40-gallon tank. It depends on the pleco, I guess. Like some are meat eaters, some eat biofilm. No, coral would be saltwater, no coral. But I don't really find plecos to be very good algae eaters, just generally speaking. I mean, I've got a ton of them. I love plecos, but as far as being good algae eaters, they're mediocre at best, I would say. So this aquarium has my Starry Night cichlid. He's a Madagascar cichlid who's decided he wanted to redecorate. I had some jungle val planted in here. It's been in here for a hot minute, but it's now been uprooted. I have a Synodontis decorus catfish that's flashing around down there, underneath him. Some clown roaches, a Congicus spiker, and a hybrid biker in there somewhere. Mostly epiphytes in here, though. I used to have 255 freshwater, 155 saltwater. My final straw was when I bought an emperor angelfish, and it died an hour after I got home. Yes, angelfish, the saltwater angelfish can be very expensive. And perhaps they did just have the right balance in your case. Yeah, and you never know. Like one thing I've learned is that whatever is happening in your tank today might be totally different tomorrow. Like I don't have any fish in this aquarium. And there's not a lot of algae, and you know, what are you gonna do? Why is it doing it? I don't know. It's cycled more. I don't know. Like sometimes, like I don't know. Like algae is a mystery to me. I'll be perfectly honest with you. It comes, it goes. Different kinds come and go, and I personally find Siamese algae eaters to be much better at eating algae than most plecostomus are. I try to buy the plecostomus that actually do eat algae, except I also buy pretty plecostomus, which really kind of throws everything off. So what are you going to do? But this is a 55-gallon tank. I used to have the native fish in here. It has an underground filter plate in it. It has an Aquaclear 70. It has a Fluval 407. And I have changed this over. I got rid of the natives. I put them back in my pond. For those of you who are wondering, that's where they came from, so that's where they went back to. And I decided to go planted. So this has a aquarium co-op light on it. All of my planted tank lights are aquarium co-op, except I do have one fluval, that fluval right there. And then in the house, I also have another fluval 3.0. So I've got two fluval 3.0s, but they're, I don't know. I don't like the app stuff as much as a lot of people do. I like just to have everything on the little controller, throw it on a timer, and you're off to the races. So the app stuff just, I don't know. I don't need it. I don't want it. So this aquarium, I think the Cichlids bikers, I think I'm going to throw some bikers in here along with a few other fish, but I'm going to give this time for all the plants to get nice and rooted. This has been going for about a week now. I'll probably give it another 2-3 weeks, maybe another 4 weeks before I actually add fish to it. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. It's going pretty nice. No algae. No algae going on any of the leaves or anything like that. There's some remnant algae from before I planted it that some of the Malaysian trumpet snails are working on, but man, it's going pretty nice. And then this is the big tank. This is the 8 by 4 by 2.5. And obviously you can tell that I really love bikers, fish ears. You see that pile of them back there. Some of those guys back there are like that big boy up front, the big boy coming towards us too. Like this big boy right here. They're all about 18 or so inches long. Got a whole passel of bikers back in there. All different kinds. Mostly in cherries, but all different kinds. I've got the phantom pleco back over in there. I've got a blue phantom pleco. You can see the tail of a megalodorus or wing in there. There's another Cichlids apparatus down in there. I did get some new fish. So most of these fish, you guys, if you've watched my previous video on my fish room, have seen these guys. But that pike right there with the red, Xingu pike, he is new. Very much enamored with him. Beautiful fish. I went to the fish store for probably about 2 months, saying, "Hey, just show him eating, like feed him something." The maximum number of fish you can put in a tank that size, that depends on the size of the fish, how much maintenance you're willing to do. Like I do a water change every week. I do probably about a 25% water change every week. Then I have a lot of filtration. We'll go over the filtration in a minute. So that's a hard question to answer, and just watch your parameters. You can add fish until you can no longer add fish, right? Does my pond outside have koi? No, I don't have koi. But anyway, that's the red Xingu pike, so he's a cool addition. And then another cool addition, I don't know if you can see him. You can see his tail kind of poking out back there. I have an African lungfish, and he'll also get to be about 3 foot long. So I'm very, very stoked with that. As far as the filtration on this aquarium is concerned, there is an undergravel filter in here, a snap-together undergravel filter with 4 uplift tubes, 2 of which have been blocked by fish digging up stuff. The undergravel filter, I don't think really does anything in here. Only one swordfish. Yeah, only one swordfish. So I don't really think the undergravel filter is doing much, if anything, in here. I was hoping that the deep substrate undergravel filter, the Kevin Novak method, he calls himself a doctor, but he doesn't have a PhD. I was hoping that would work. Oh yeah, I tried. My poor plant. I had a bunch of silver dollars in here, and I tried some giant Vallisneria, and the silver dollars just ate it, just right down to the sand. So I got rid of them, and I tried a new jungle val, and it's getting eaten. I think it's the flagfish, the flagtail. I think it's this pretty boy right here who's doing the eating of the plants. So yeah, as far as the underground filter, I don't think it does a lot. Hopefully it does something, but whatever. I've got two overflows. The overflow on the left, well, they both end up in the same place, but I'll pretend that they're different for difference's sake. The overflow on the left goes down into this 125-gallon sump. It goes through a 200 micron filter sleeve. Then it goes through that pump, through this. It's a pond. It's a all clear 4500s from the Pond guys, canister filter, and it goes back up. And then the overflow on this side comes down through that U-joint kind of thing into here. It goes through a 200 micron sock. There's about 200 or so scrubby pads in here. There's an overflow right there that takes it back into the 125-gallon sump. There is a FX6 that is running in here. But anything that doesn't go through the overflow will go down through this bottom. There's a bypass through there into here, where I've got a moving bed filter powered by this guy and one of those air pumps up there. And then from here, it overflows back into, through another 100 micron filter sock into the sump. And it takes a lot of filtration to keep up with these bad boys. So, I mean, there's a lot of fish in here, but I have a lot of filtration. How often do I have to change out those scrub pads? I shouldn't ever have to change them out. As mulm and stuff settle at the bottom, I've got this right here. I've got a nipple thing I could put in there and a hose, and I could just drain it out from the bottom, and that'll take a lot of the mulm out. I've got another one at the bottom of this tub too. But the scrubbies, I mean, they don't wear out or anything, or at least not in our lifetime. They're just plastic scrubbies. And so, you know, they're growing tons and tons of bacteria on them. They're an excellent surface for growing bacteria. And so that's what we got. So I just wanted to show everybody around the fish room. I do have just spotlights on here. The two spotlights in the middle, the two smaller looking spotlights, there's one in the front and one in the back. Those come on an hour before the other four come on, and they go off an hour after the other four go on to like show sunrise, because they're a warm white and the other four are daylight. And then they also come on an hour before the big ones, the four, go off, and they stay on an hour after the other four go off to show sunset. So there's that. And then someone was saying something. And I can't see it because, here we go. A friend showed me their UV light setup that's in line with the filter system and swears by it. I haven't been convinced to invest in that just yet. I've had UV filters, like this guy comes with a UV filter built into it, UVC, but I don't turn it on. The one time I turned it on was when I was having a outbreak of cyanobacteria. Like it's a blue-green bacteria that grows all over your sand. I turned that on, and that cleared it up. It took a couple weeks, so I didn't have to medicate the tank or treat the tank for that cyanobacteria, blue-green algae. I don't know. I watch a lot of koi channels, like pond channels, and just about all of them have the UV sterilizer or UV clarifiers on them, and they all seem to have to treat for parasites like fairly regularly. So I don't know exactly how much work those things are doing. I mean, maybe it's doing something, maybe it's even doing a lot, but I don't know. I don't really want to spend money on that. Yeah, lungfish came up for a gulp of air, and he went right back into his hidey hole. He's so cool. He's under that rock. He's so cool. When he eats stuff, his like whole face mushes up. It's cool. It's so cool. Very cool, very happy with the lungfish. Bikers are my first love. Fishiers, bikers, whatever. But the lungfish are super duper cool. Super duper cool. Very happy with them. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Thank you for stopping by and have a great day.